for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
It is Matt Ohayon on the Sick Podcast on this Friday evening. Welcome, everyone, to the weekend. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. You haven't really played poker until you've played at Playground. Voted Fan Choice Best Poker Room at the 2025 Global Poker Awards. Enjoy free drinks at every table, free food at all cash games, and daily tournaments, plus the biggest events in the game like the World Poker Tour and WSOP Circuit, landing at Playground on August 18th. That happened 4 days ago. And don't miss your shot at the world record Bad Beat Jackpot, now closing in on $1 million. Just minutes away from downtown Montreal across the Mercier Bridge. This is Playground. We're also brought to you by La Bittt Tibi Beer. La Bittt Tibi has launched their new Ultra Lager, a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer perfect for those hot summer days with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, and 4% alcohol per can. Available in packs of 6 and 12 in grocery stores and dépanneurs across the province of Quebec. Ultra light and ultra refreshing. And finally, go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offer is available only for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 years or older. Please play responsibly. Hey, listen, we got some news this week. It's not anything groundbreaking, but Nick Suzuki made an appearance at a golf tournament. Stu Cowan wrote an article about it. He's usually my Friday guest, and he is again today. So he's going to be here to talk about it and some other things I have jotted down on my notes. Stu, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fine. I'd be doing a lot better if hockey was here. It's very funny. My cousin texted me earlier this week about, I think on Tuesday, he goes, I can't do it anymore. I need it. I need something. I can't keep watching practice highlights. And I go, I know, I feel the same way. I said the same thing to Stu about a month ago. So Stu, I don't know how if your appetite is getting larger and larger for the season, but mine and a lot of fans are.
Yeah, well, I was back at work this week at the Gazette after my summer vacation and popped by the CN Sports Complex in Brossard, and quite a few Canadiens guys skating there. I mean, Suzuki wasn't there yesterday because he was at his golf tournament, but there was about 6 other guys there, and it's been that way for much of the summer. And you're talking about practice videos. I tweeted out a bunch of videos from practice yesterday, and it's amazing how many people watch them in August. Just guys going through a summer skate, and people can't get enough. I mean, I posted one pretty cool video of Adam Nicholas, who's the director of hockey development. He's been running the practices at Brossard, and sitting behind the glass in the press box, you can still hear his booming voice. I tweeted, nobody loves their job more than Adam Nicholas, and he's sort of a behind the scenes guy, but he's played a big role in the successes Canadiens have had during this rebuilding process, working with these players, both on and off the ice. But yeah, we're getting close. The golf tournament's a little less than a month away. We have that mini rookie tournament coming up at the Bell Center. I think it's September 13th, if I'm not mistaken, that weekend, with Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa teams there. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we are gearing up for the season, and there's going to be some battles in camp that we will wait to talk about. But what we're going to talk about is something that, or things that Nick Suzuki touched on yesterday at that golf tournament. most notably for me and probably for everyone, of course, must have been you really got to wait till the official Canadiens golf tournament, not a charity golf tournament. But he kind of started laying out some expectations for the Montreal Canadiens for this upcoming season. And I don't know. I mean, after watching the first 2 episodes of the rebuild on Crave, I would think Nick Suzuki, even during the summer, is in constant contact and communication with Martin St. Louis and Kent Hughes. But who knows if that we'll get the same messaging from management, or if they're going to dial it back just a little bit, because he said we want to be competing for the Stanley Cup. That's the expectation, and that's what we're moving towards. So, the headliners will read that Nick Suzuki expects the Montreal Canadiens to compete for the Stanley Cup as early as this season. But I still think, they know that they've got a ways to go before that.
Yeah, his exact quote was, expectations are going to grow, and we know that, and that's fine with us. We all want the same goal at the end of the day. We want to be challenging for the Stanley Cup. So I think from now on, that's pretty much going to be our goal. And Nick Suzuki's a smart guy, and he's very close with Kent Hughes, and he's very close with Marty St. Louis. We realized just how close in that Crave series when Kent phoned or got in touch or spoke with Nick Suzuki before pulling the trigger on the Patrik Laine trade, saying they knew that what Laine could provide from a hockey sense, but they wanted to make sure that he would fit in okay in the room, and Hughes wanted confirmation of that from his captain, Nick Suzuki. So Suzuki's been talking with these guys. He wouldn't have said what he said without running it by or speaking that way with Hughes and Marty St. Louis, I'm pretty sure. I think we're going to get a similar type of message at the Canadiens golf tournament. And I think they're right. I mean, they're not ready to win the Stanley Cup yet, but they took a big step last season. They've made some key additions this season during the offseason to make them, they're a better team right now than they were at the start of last season. Patrik Laine, if he can be healthy to start the season. And the other thing that was interesting in that Crave series, we sort of forget how bad the Canadiens start was last year.
Oh, yeah.
They were in last place in the NHL after 15 games. And talking with David Sirard at the news conference, he said when he watched it, he had sort of forgotten how bad they were at the beginning of the season, especially defensively. So the key for them this year to get off to a good start, obviously avoiding major injuries to key players in training camp would help a lot in the preseason. But I expect this team, the fact that so many of them are already in Brossard and skating together, and I wrote a column this week, a lot of that is on Nick Suzuki, because when he decided after being named captain that he and his wife, his girlfriend at the time, but we're going to live here year round. I think that was a huge message to the rest of his teammates that we're more than just Canadiens players. We got to start becoming part of the city. And we've seen more and more of these guys spending time here. Speaking with Jaden Struble, he said, the last 2 years he spent more time in Montreal than he has back home in Rhode Island. And that really, I think that the bonding of this team, and I think that's going to lead to them getting off to a better start than they had last season. Plus, they have more talent than they had at the beginning of last season.
Well, that's it. It's just to their benefit to do that, because you're putting in extra. I mean, listen, we don't got eyes and ears everywhere around the league. I don't know what other teams are doing, but the more you can build chemistry, it's not just something that's naturally there. It always has to be worked on, especially when you have new players coming in. So the more that they could work on that, the better it is. And that's a great point you bring up, because it's funny. I was thinking the same thing about, I forgot how much buzz there was when Patrik Laine got traded to the Montreal Canadiens. Really, you forget how it is at the beginning. And when he got traded here, I remember, now that I see it on TV, it was nuts here.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone was tuning into the Sick podcast right away. They tuned into the radio right away. They wanted the instant analysis, because there wasn't a guy like that ever in Montreal that could score goals like this.
It's been a long time.
For a very, very long time.
A long time. And that excitement's there again now with Laine coming in and Dobson coming in and the other guys coming in. It's an exciting time, I think, for the Canadiens. And as I mentioned with Suzuki having more and more of the guys living here, part of that is these guys are young, right? There used to be, season was over and the Habs players couldn't get out of town quick enough. A lot of them had families and kids and that. They want to go back to their summer homes. That's understandable. But now you have young guys growing up on and off the ice in the city. And what a great city to be in the summertime if you're a young single guy or with a girlfriend. And we've seen them at the Lasso Festival. They were at the other festivals at the Parc Jean Drapeau, the music ones. They've been around town. You see them around town again, which for a long time you didn't, especially not in the summertime. And they're becoming Montrealers. As I said, they're becoming not just Canadiens. They realize, and Nick Suzuki as a captain realizes what this team means to the city, what it means to be captain of the Montreal Canadiens, how important it is to be involved in the community and part of the community. We saw that yesterday. He raised over $120,000 for the Assista Foundation, which trains service dogs to help people with mental health issues, etc. So he understands what it means to be captain of this team. And when Shea Weber was captain, he was a great leader in the locker room, no doubt about that. But I don't think he really understood what it meant to be captain in this city compared to what it means maybe in Nashville or other cities around the NHL. And Nick Suzuki has grasped it. As I wrote in the column, he's worn the C with pride. He's worn it with class. And his performance on the ice has improved every single season since he was named captain also. And you think 23 years old to be named captain of the Montreal Canadiens. Not many people can handle that. Jaden Struble told me, talking with him at the news conference about the Crave series, he said, it's hard to believe that he's only 2 years older than me. He says he acts like he's 30. He just always does the right thing. And that's what you want your captain to do, right? The ultimate captain with the Canadiens was Jean Beliveau, right? And he always seemed to do the right thing. And Nick Suzuki is following those footsteps.
Well, the whole thing with Shea Weber being the captain is that, when he came in, it kind of felt like, wow, this is a player that's kind of bigger than the entire room. Mm-hmm. And it was the same thing to a degree with Carey Price. As we've said before, they took up a lot of air. But mm-hmm. when you have a guy who learns on the job and isn't just, not to say Shea Weber was going through the motions, but it seemed like hockey was a job. It was work.
In the locker room, there's no doubt he was a great leader. Nick Suzuki learned a ton from Shea Weber. He'd be the first to admit that. But Shea Weber didn't like being in front of the media. He didn't like being. That's just the type of person he is. He's a quiet leader, and his whole world was pulled out from under him when he got traded from Nashville. Oh, yeah. He didn't want to come to Montreal. I mean, as I've written and said before, the Predators traded his contract. They didn't trade the player. They realized how ridiculous that 12-year, $120 million contract, or whatever it was. And I think the day they signed it, after the Flyers gave him that offer sheet and they decided to match, I think that's the day they realized they had to trade him. So Shea Weber would have been much happier just staying in Nashville his whole career. But, the rug got pulled out from under and he came to Montreal. And again, he was a great leader in the locker room. And a lot of the players learned important, valuable lessons from him. The courage he showed, the injuries he played through, all those kind of things. The players learned so much from that. But off the ice, the role of being captain with the Montreal Canadiens, he wasn't as comfortable with that as Nick Suzuki has been. But Nick Suzuki learned an awful lot from Shea Weber that has helped him also become the leader he is. And Nick Suzuki's a quiet leader. That's what Jaden Struble was saying. He doesn't speak up a lot. He leads more by his actions. Shea Weber's one of those guys, when he spoke, everybody listened, right? He had that respect in the locker room. And Nick Suzuki is getting to that point. And 3 years into his captaincy, he's been, the day they named him captain, I thought it was a good choice. Brendan Gallagher is a guy I thought would have been a good captain with the Canadiens. I think he would have been a better captain off the ice than Shea Weber was if they had given Gallagher the C back then. But with this young team coming up and growing together, to make Suzuki the captain was smart because they're all growing up together. At that point, management didn't know if Brendan Gallagher, how he fit into their plans. Were they going to try and trade him? Were they going to be able to trade him? So making Nick Suzuki the captain, I think, was one of the best decisions that Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes have made since taking over this team.
Speaking of Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes, The Athletic did a fan survey of the confidence level of each fan base in their front offices. And the Montreal Canadiens, a.k.a. Kent Hughes, Jeff Gorton, and co., they got an A-, and they were number 5 out of 32. And I think unilaterally, you'd be pretty hard pressed to find a Canadiens fan that isn't happy with this management group at this point. I don't think if there is, I haven't come across one.
Montreal's the hardest place for the biggest critics, right? Hockey. Everybody's. All Canadiens fans are GMs and coaches, right? And they think they know better than the guys in those positions do often. But yeah, for these two guys, I'm with Marty St. Louis. There's very little criticism of these guys. As I've said before, you can debate some of the decisions they've made, but they make sense. There's nothing they've done that you go, that was stupid. They've had a plan, they've stuck to it, and making the playoffs 3 years into a rebuild is very impressive. And the excitement level going into this season, they have so many young players now, both on the team and coming up. There's going to be internal competition for the next couple of years for spots on the team. As I said, they're not ready to win a Stanley Cup yet, but they're 2 to 3 years away, I think, from being a legitimate Stanley Cup contender the way things are going.
Well, I think the two moves that people would point to, if there, maybe three. The two big ones would be the Lehkonen for Justin Barron, but then they got their get back by getting Carrier for Justin Barron, so they made up for that one. The other one would be the first round pick for Kirby Dach, but listen, hindsight is 2020, and the Kirby Dach experiment is not finished. He still has 1 year left to prove. It's not done, but that would be another move. And if you wanted to throw a third one in there, it's one that in the moment seemed very risky. It was acquiring Alex Newhook for a prospect, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. But I just looked at who those picks turned out to be, and essentially they're nobodies. With all due respect to Mikhail Gulyayev and Ethan Gauthier. So their moves are very, very calculated. It's very rare they flop on a move. And like you said, this city, everybody's a coach, everybody's a GM, and we're all the biggest critics of the Montreal Canadiens. But I think what the fan base values the most out of everything is the vision and the direction, and having a direction. Because when Marc Bergevin was here, the direction of the team was, we're going as far as Carey Price is going to take us. Because it was, you get into the playoffs. And
here and there wasn't really any kind of a long-term plan. But I mean, he had pressure every year to make the playoffs. And the thing that Hughes and Gorton have had since coming in is there was no pressure on them to make the playoffs right away, right? So it made their lives a little bit easier as far as putting that plan in place without the pressure to win. But, you mentioned the Kirby Dach trade, and, people criticize it now. And I wrote a story today, Frank Nazar, the player that the Blackhawks selected with the 13th overall pick that they got for Kirby Dach. Yesterday he was 21 years old, signed to a 7-year, $46 million contract after playing only 56 games in the NHL. Kid's obviously talented. He was part of the Team USA that won the World Championship. He was part of Team USA that won the World Junior Championship. And the Blackhawks obviously think a lot about him. But the story I wrote today, I went back and looked at the story I wrote after they made the trade. And Nazar's obviously a talented player, center, 5'10", 190 pounds. He's not a big guy, right? Very skilled guy, but not a big guy. And one of the reasons that the Canadiens made the trade for Kirby Dach, they were looking for that second-line center, and they wanted size, right? Kirby Dach, 6'4", 221 pounds, a former number 3 overall pick in the draft. And I've looked back and the story that I wrote, and the quote from Kent Hughes at the time, one of the quotes was, "There's certainly an element of size to the game of hockey. When we watch the Stanley Cup playoffs every year, especially the playoffs versus the regular season, it's a very physical, tough brand of hockey. Our game changes a little. We're still going to put a premium on skill and speed as part of it. There's not a 5'9" hockey player that scares me, but 22 of them on the same team would scare me. So it's just trying to find that balance." So that, a big reason why they made that trade is to get a big centerman with that type of skill. Unfortunately, Kirby Dach's had 2 knee injuries now, 2 knee surgeries. We've seen what he can be when he's at the top of his game. And as you were saying, not giving up on him yet. And, Kent Hughes isn't giving up on him yet either. When before the draft in June, he was asked about it. And he said, I still believe in Kirby. He has too much potential as a player, and he does. And it's too early to say that was a total flop. And comparing Nazar was Nazar the player the Canadiens would have picked with that pick? You never know. But again, even if people are saying that was a bad move, when in hindsight, it makes sense the reasons why they made it, right?
It does, and I think, again, unilaterally, when that trade went down, not a single person went, whoa, giving up the 13th overall pick, that's a mistake by the Canadiens to pick up a former 3rd overall pick. Yeah. That's a big mistake. Nobody said that. So that one is really one that you're nitpicking at, and it's not even due to the player. These are forces outside of the player's control. especially with the way that he got injured. It's not like he plays a reckless game that, he just fell into these injuries were a result of his play. No, they weren't. They were 2 freak injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then the other quote going back that I have in my story today that Ken Hughes said after the draft is, we were looking to improve, get a little bigger, faster in the middle of the ice if we could. There's also in a perfect world an age component to it, so Dach can grow with our young core, and certainly he fit that description for us. We knew he was available potentially, so we spent a good amount of time trying to understand who Kirby Dach was. He went 3rd pick overall. What happened with Kirby Dach? Why is Chicago willing to move him? We spoke to a lot of people in and around the city of Chicago associated with the team, even to the extent of speaking to Justin Barron today. He was with them at the World Juniors, just to make sure we understood who the player was, who the person was. So the Canadiens did their homework. It's not like they just went out and said, we're going to get Kirby Dach. They looked into what happened in Chicago. He had that wrist injury in Chicago, which hurt him there. He's been injury prone since being captain of the World Junior team. And that's really had an impact on him. So again, at 24 years old, to write off Kirby Dach, it's going to be difficult. I mean, it was so hard coming back from 1 knee injury. It's going to be even harder coming back from 2 knee injuries. But, Ken Hughes in a story on the NHL.com this week also said, we're not going to rush him back. We're not sure if he's going to be ready to start the season, but we're not going to rush him back. So they're going to make sure that he's 100% ready physically and mentally before they put him back in the lineup.
And that's been the story. Again, they just seem to have a plan for everything and everyone. And that, to me, is what Canadiens fans value so much, is that I think for years people were clamoring, near the back end of Marc Bergevin's years, it doesn't matter if it's Marc Bergevin who does it. Just blow the team up. Tell us, send us a letter like the New York Rangers. At least let us know what we're doing versus being in this limbo and, once you get into the playoffs, anything could happen.
Jeff Molson had to sign off on this, right? He deserves a ton of credit for being willing to. He realized we got to do something. We got to blow this up and start over again. And he gave Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes the leash to do that. He allowed them to hire a coach with no NHL experience, right? And Marty St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And again, just the decisions they've made, they make sense. And the Kirby Dach trade made sense at the time, and not all trades work out. I mean, the injury thing comes into play. But for Kirby Dach, obviously it's a huge season for him. Last year of his contract, physically and mentally, it was tough for him mentally, obviously last year too, and even having the injury the second time. But the fact that Canadiens are willing to be patient and wait till he's fully ready to come back into the lineup. And another smart move, I mean, they weren't able to find the so-called second-line center to fill that role, not yet anyway, during the offseason. But they did go and get Joe Veleno, a former first-round pick for basically NHL minimum salary, another big guy to add some depth to the center position while they wait and see what's going to happen with Kirby Dach, and while they wait and see if they can pull off some other kind of a move to get a second-line center.
Yeah. So the other note that they got the highest on, it was pretty much A- across the board. From the public, though, they got from drafting and development. This I found super interesting. From the fan base, they got an A-, and from the public, they got an A+. That to me was super interesting and super telling, because Canadiens fans and media members will talk about, the newest prospect is the new toy on the block. It's the new toy. It's the new shiny thing that everyone's excited about. They're all going to pan out. But we obviously know that they won't. Yeah. But for the public to recognize the type of talent that the Canadiens have in their prospect pool, that to me is a lot more telling than, people with the eyes everywhere that are saying, this player X will be something. But because every team has an internal pool, how many times could you see Anaheim at the top of these lists and they've been at the bottom of the league forever, or Buffalo are at the top of this list, or top of these lists until they trade away all their prospects. For the Canadiens to get this recognition from the rest of the NHL fan bases and NHL is really, really significant, because it just goes to show what kind of intelligence and great hockey minds that they have running their organization right now.
Yeah, and the player development, I mean, I mentioned Adam Nicholas, and like nobody loves his job more than this guy, and the work he's done with these guys. Slavkovsky had an interview with Anthony Martineau of TBS Sports the other day, and he was saying that, Nicholas is sending him videos all the time about what to work on during the summer and where he's going to get the puck most and how to do it. And watching Adam Nicholas at a practice in the summer is a lot of fun just to watch the way he works with these guys. And the Crave series, there was one episode there where they're going to Trevor Letowski, the assistant coach, is running a meeting during training camp and introducing a new system for rush coverage. Stressing how important it is for team defense and saying their analytics show that like 40% of even strength goals in the NHL are scored off the rush coverage. And the series gives you a little bit of a look behind just how they use analytics also. I mean, there's no analytics department with Marc Bergevin. The player development department was very small. Gorton and Hughes have brought in Paul Byron. Like, what a perfect guy to add to player development. I'd be surprised if they don't bring David Savard back in some kind of a role. Speaking with David Savard this week, he said he's had some talks with Hughes and Gorton about that, but he said, I've been busy summer, they've been busy summer, we haven't really had a chance to sit down. And I think David Savard said, even if it's not in an official role, the Canadiens decide not to hire him, he's still going to be in touch with all these players. He feels he's a big part of this team, and he was a big part of this team through the development process. Basically, every young defenseman who came up with the Canadiens over the last 3 years, their first the partner was David Savard, for all of them, including Lane Hudson. Played a huge role. So just the way the player development thing, the way they've used analytics, Jeff Gorton talked about how they wanted a modern day coach, and they were sort of like, well, what is that? Well, it's Marty St. Louis, right? With the communication skills. They've had a plan, they've stuck to it, and they're smart guys. You have three really smart guys running this team now, and Gorton, Hughes, and Marty St. Louis, and Jeff Molson, who was smart enough to realize that this rebuild had to start, and he deserves a ton of credit for the way this team is going right now.
100%, because yes, in the long term, it's going to pay off. But in the short term, a lot of companies think short term. And, to actively and willingly give up the playoffs for however many years, that's a lot of money that Jeff Molson's losing out on. And not a lot of owners would be happy with that.
And he wasn't sure about the fan reaction. I had a one-on-one with Jeff Molson in his office a couple of years ago. And I asked him, I said, what's the fan reaction going to be? He said, I don't know. It's never been done in Montreal. We've never done a rebuild in Montreal. So I don't know what it's going to be. But they've been, right from day one, they've been open and honest with the fans, saying what they're planning to do, how they're planning to do it, what their goals are, and they've stuck to it. So I think that's a big reason why the fan ratings are so high for this management team, is that they're very open and honest, and they have their plan. They've stuck to it, and they've shown they're not going to panic. They didn't panic this summer to get a second-line center. They didn't panic in free agency to sign somebody for too many years and too much money. They have their plan. They realize, as Nick Suzuki saying, our goal now is set to win a Stanley Cup, and management has had that right from day one, eventually getting to that point. They realize they're not there yet, and they're not panic moves to try and make a huge step this year. They're taking step by step by step. They're ahead of where they expected to be. Last year was just to be in the mix. They went above and beyond that. And this season, I'm sure at the official team tournament, we're going to hear a similar message to what Nick Suzuki delivered, and that moving forward now, our goal is to have a team that can win the Stanley Cup. It's
going to be interesting to see how they go through the adversity that they face throughout the upcoming season, because last year, I mean, you saw it through the first two episodes. It really couldn't have gotten much worse because, they lost 6 in a row. But, one of the glaring things, this is even before, we talk about that famous loss to Pittsburgh. What was it, 9-3?
Yeah.
Even before that, they got trounced by the Seattle Kraken on home ice, 8-2. I completely forgot about that.
And the season opener, they won 1-0. They gave up 48 shots to the Leafs. And a good part of the episode, one of the Crave, is the St. Louis, the players are all going crazy in the locker room, and St. Louis is happy in the coach's room. And he says to Jeff Gorton, you should have seen the locker room afterwards. It was awesome. He says, I think Crave got it, and Crave did get it. And then they have an interview with Jeff Gorton saying, for a coach and players, they're excited they won. And as a manager of the team, you're going, boy, we got to play a lot better than that. Like, we got to play a lot better. So he's that's the difference from a manager. One of the things I think with Marc Bergevin is he let his emotions get the better of him often, whether it was negotiations or trades or whatnot. And Hughes and Gorton don't do that, right? I mean, there's a big win, 1-0 home ice Toronto, and he's saying, oh boy, we're not very good. We're going to have to be a lot better than this if we're going to go where we want to go.
Well, the only I feel the only time the fans liked seeing, or he really did show emotion. I mean, I feel like towards the end of his tenure, Marc Bergevin started to get very testy with the media. The media started to get very testy with him. And there was a very fractured relationship, but
started shutting certain media members out of Zoom
press conferences. There you go. But one of the things that people really liked, obviously, is they like to see emotion. And when the Canadiens did go on that run, the famous gifs of him dancing in his box when they're scoring in overtime,
kissing Carey Price on the top of his helmet, his mask with the lucky red suit and all that stuff. And it was a fun time at that time. But I think when you're and I've said this before, Marc Bergevin sort of jammed the same way he played. If you slash me, I'm going to cross-check you in the head. And that's sort of what happened in some contract negotiations. But yeah, at that point, the city, it was COVID, right? And the city needed something to celebrate. And it was fun watching at that point. But I don't think you're going to see Jeff Gorton dressed in a red suit. And I don't think you're going to see him jumping up and down and kissing players when they win. He's a little bit more business-like than that.
Yeah, I would be a little shocked about that too. But again, it's just it is an exciting time, and it's going to be interesting to see, because really we're not going to hear from Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes before this series progresses. So we're going to see how they handled the emotion of the big run that they went on, and the inside. That's going to be very interesting to see, because the one thing that I'm always apprehensive about is when making predictions this early, and people, they'll call me a negative Nancy or whatever about the Canadiens. Just you have to see, because there's so many things that happened throughout the season. They went on that 6-game losing streak in the first month of the season. That can't happen if it's really you want to bank on making the playoffs. That can't happen. The big 9-3, 8-2 losses, that can't happen. You can't bank on whatever it was that they went from the Four Nations onward, because they stumbled into Four Nations. People forget about that. You can't bank on going on this incredible run and, you're going to get there. I know that they did get there, and you can't take that away from them. It's the same thing that how people talk about. There's an asterisk towards the Canadiens' last Stanley Cup run against Tampa Bay. There's an asterisk because of whatever the Canadian division and all that. You can't take it away. You can only do what's in front. You can only play the games that are on your schedule. So it happened, and they did it. We need to see it in a more sustainable way, because the highs and lows that they reached on that season were unparalleled, and I don't think you want to reach those lows every year.
No, there's going to be highs and lows every season. But you go back to that 9-3 loss to the Penguins. I remember at the Bell Center, and they gave up, right? They just left when Caden Primo, they put him in there. They left them, hung him out there to dry. And I'm hoping this Crave series has some behind-the-scenes footage in the coach's room after that game. So I think we've spoken about this before. I remember Marty saying to me to come to the news conference room, and I'm thinking if we were ever going to blow a gasket and rip this team, now's the time. And I was starting to wonder about Marty St. Louis' future too. Like
a lot of people were.
It looked like they had given up. It looked like the end of Dominic Ducharme's era when the players stopped playing for him. And I always remember Marty coming into that news conference, and I asked him the question. I said, I don't know how angry you get behind the bench or how disappointed you get at the bench. But what made you the most angry tonight? And he said, I wasn't angry. I was disappointed. And that, to me, says a whole bunch about the way Marty St. Louis coaches, saying he was disappointed in his players. He didn't think they'd do that. He thought they'd be better than that. And they responded to him responding like that. They didn't want to let him down. I remember speaking with Caden Gooley about this a couple of days later. He said, we got a good thing going here. We love playing for Marty. We don't want him to get fired. Like we got to be better. We got to do better. And I think that was a big point of the season. I hope they have some kind of a footage behind the scenes with the Crave series. And also talk about Alex Carrier before. I hope they have some footage about how that led to that trade, because I didn't know a ton about Alex Carrier before that.
Nobody did.
I don't think anybody did. And it was like, oh, okay, they're bringing in French guy, and he used to be with the Cortex Management or whatever. And there's another Kent Hughes guy, and that was a turning point in the season, right? That was a big turning point in the season, just the way it settled things down on the blue line, settled the pairings. They brought in a right-hand shot. So I'm looking forward to see some of the future episodes, see if they have some of the behind-the-scenes discussions about how they were able to make that trade. And Justin Barron for now that you're talking about bad trades, that certainly looks like a bad trade for Nashville, although Justin Barron's also young, right? So we'll see. But I don't know what, you wonder sort of what Nashville was seeing from Justin Barron that made them decide to make that trade, when what we were seeing from Justin Barron on a regular basis wasn't very good, especially defensively.
Well, it's funny because I remember when the trade going down that day, and I have a group chat that we talk hockey all the time, and in that group chat, two of my friends who I talk hockey with the most, they just said, "Who is this guy? I can't believe that they just took on this salary." That's what they were most concerned about, because nobody really knew anything about his style of play. It was really the salary that was the biggest glaring thing. That was, oh my God, they're taking on $3 million or $3.5 million, and the guy can't score, and he's just one of those stay-at-home defensemen. That's not the way it should be done. And then it shut a lot of people up. But Justin Barron, by the way, actually doing okay out in Nashville. Had a nice second half to the season, which is nice. Which is nice.
And Jeff Gorton said after the trade, he says this isn't a short-term deal. Like, we're looking at Carey as a long-term player with the Canadiens, and once we got to see him on a regular basis, you understand why.
Yeah, big time. So as the series progresses, we progress closer to the season. I won't even say the season. I'll say to the golf tournament. We're progressing closer to the golf tournament. I'm sure there are a couple more appearances, going to be a couple more public appearances by some Montreal Canadiens members before that, where they will answer some questions about the forthcoming season. But until then, we will continue to break down what we think of what the Canadiens will bring at this coming season. Stu, thank you very much for your time, as always, and we will talk to you next week.
Okay, have a great weekend.
That was Stu Cowan. I'm Matt Ohayon. For Shane Gomo, back at Master Control. We'll catch you next time.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Tibi, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.